Bună ziua, doamnelor și domnilor! Bine ați venit la o nouă ediție a emisiunii ZF, Investiții în România, realizată în parteneriat cu Czech Bank. Eu sunt Alex și chiar azi voi fi gazda dumneavoastră. Azi avem două discuții foarte interesante. În prima parte a emisiunii vom discuta despre zootehnie. Discutăm cu cea mai mare fermă integrată de vaci de lapte, Agrar. Iar discuția va fi în engleză pentru că discutăm cu domnul Peter de Boer. În a doua parte a emisiunii însă vom discuta cu antreprenorul Ștefan Mandache, care a vândut anul trecut lanțul de restaurante Spartan către cei mai mari francizați pe care îi avea. Între timp a intrat în educație și vrem să vedem care sunt planurile de dezvoltare în acest domeniu. Cum spuneam, prima parte a emisiunii discutăm despre zootehnie cu domnul Peter de Boer, board member and director of strategy and investor relations at Agrar Group. Hello, Mr. de Boer, how are you?
Hello. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I'm doing well, thank you, and I'm glad to be here because, as probably many people have saw, that we had quite some recent news, etc. So I'm happy to be
here. Yes. Besides the recent news, I'm happy you're here because, as I said, Agrar is the biggest integrated farm for dairy cows in Romania, and you're looking at expansion further. You're working at a new farm right now. I'm curious about that. But let's start from the beginning. How was this year for your company in this environment where the agriculture has suffered because of the drought and the climate events?
So far, we have quite a successful year. Also, in regards to the climate, especially on the agricultural part, we had sufficient rainfall. That was also the main reason when we entered Romania to choose the Transylvanian region, because it has the most efficient rainfall all of the country. So also we see an increase of harvest tons per hectare on every crop that we produce. So that was quite well. The downside of the climate was more on our dairy component, where the heat wave started quite early, let's say mid-May, and took also in June, July, August. So there are way more months than we had last year, and we saw a decrease in quite a significant decrease in milk production. Now, slowly on, since September, October, we found the way up again. And we expect from now on further increases in milk production. Generally, I can say we had an EBITDA advance by 10%. We reached to 35 million in the first half year. We are clearly on track to reach our goal this year to produce at least 60 million liters of milk. And that is part of our strategy by doubling our business by the end of 2027, beginning 2028. We are on track in regards to our strategy.
So
sorry. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I have a couple of questions along the way because it's an interesting topics and I want to get further into them. You said that you want to reach 60 million liters in the production of milk this year.
This year, yeah, our strategy is to reach over 100 million by the end of 2027, or let's say by the end of 2028, to produce on an annual basis over 100 million liters of milk. This year we will produce 60 million, and we will expect further increases next year, but it will take a few years to reach the milestone, I would say, of production of over 100 million liters on an annual basis. That means 300,000 liters per day.
Okay, right now you're working about 7,000 hectares of crops, right?
We work 7,000 hectares inside the group, and outside the group we work another 3,000 hectares.
What does it mean outside the group?
It's somehow, to a certain degree, an affiliate company, you could say, where we have, it doesn't belong to the Agrar Group, the part that is listed on the stock exchange, but the main shareholder is also shareholder in this other company together with some other Dutch shareholders. And those 3,000 hectares, they provide additional food for our animals. And we do the management there as well as the field services, etc. So harvesting, seeding, these kind of processes.
Are you also selling production from crops, or all the production is going into animal food?
At the moment, let's say over 90% is animal food because we grow relatively fast. We have some crops that we sell. An example is sunflower. Also, we produce some wheat for beer factories, etc. But the far majority at the moment is food production. in the ideal situation, we would like to come in a situation where we produce 80%, or we use 80% of the hectares to produce food for our animals, and 20% to sell externally. But at the moment, because of the fast growth and the increase in animals, we more or less need all the hectares, let's say, to produce food.
Okay, I want to address this topic. So in Romania, as I'm sure you've seen by now, we are really stuck into primary agriculture, and we need to step up. Raising animals, animal farms are one of the ways to step up. Can you explain us in 2024 or for DN Agrar, how does it look, the cost of raising one cow? How much is the food? How much is the energy? How much is the working hand?
Of course, I cannot disclose specific costs, that we don't do. But what I generally can say, of course, we see, especially the last couple of years, a huge volatility in the milk price. And usually when there is inflation, the milk price moves with it. So especially last year, we had a record milk price where we had also records in inflation. At the beginning of this year, we had a drop in our milk price. In the first quarter, we had a drop of 25% in our milk price. In the first 6 months, we had approximately 12% reduction in milk price. So, but now the milk price is going up, and of course, also some prices go up still. But we expect at least that the milk price will grow till approximately April next year, and from there we expect that it will be stabilized or will show a small decrease. Normally, it's also a normal pattern that in the summer, usually milk is cheaper priced than in the winter months. But we still see a strong command for and interest for milk. At the European level, we still see an increase and in demand in a request. The demand slows down, so that's one of the reasons that the milk price increases. And in Romania, there was a 4% increase in milk collected as well in the first 6 months of 2024. Also a growth of 1% in consumption in the first quarter of this year, and worldwide we see growth as well. If related to Romania, it imports more than 50% of the consumed milk, mainly from Hungary and Poland. So that I can say, but everything increased, especially since the Ukraine war. We saw a huge increase, and we were also affected by this, mainly through chemical fertilizer. But luckily, we have a lot of manure which we use on our fields to fertilize. And in that year, that the chemical fertilizer prices were skyrocketed, we were able to use more of our own manure, and we heavily reduced the chemical fertilizer, which gave us a competitive advantage, as well as we invested in equipment like pipes, etc., to bring the manure to the fields. Before we could fertilize with our own manure, let's say 15 hectares per day, 14 to 15 hectares. Now we can produce with 1 tractor per day, or we can fertilize with 1 tractor per day, 40 to 45 hectares. So because of our scale, it allows us to do these kind of investments. And that's also that we now invest in a compost plant that comes operational, I hope, next week. To further use our own manure also on hectares that are further away from the farm. So generally, as a conclusion, we could say that the cost significantly increased. Also, labor cost. The government even sometimes several times per year increases the minimum wage. But the minimum wage has always an effect, even if in general we don't pay. Not many of our employees receive minimum wage. But still, if the minimum wage increase also in the rest of the organization, you are more or less forced to increase the salaries as well.
Okay.
So,
you said that the compost factory will be operational next week?
yeah, it arrived this week in Constanța. So I expect tomorrow, the day after that, it will enter the Apold farm. And then it takes 2 to 3 days to install the machine. The building is ready.
How much have you invested for this project?
1.8 million euros.
And
That's
what's
the building and the machine.
What's the cost reduction that will bring you?
That depends a bit. The part we will also sell externally. to give you, but first we want to certify it as organic fertilizer. Because there the prices are really different. At the market at the moment, organic fertilizer per ton goes for 230 to 300 euros. And we expect this certification process will take 3 to 6 months. And it will be a new income stream for the Agrar. Especially in the last few years, we saw a really stable turnover, and we would like to further increase our turnover. And we expect that the compost plant will support an increase in turnover. At the moment, until the moment when it is not certified as an organic fertilizer, the market prices are, let's say, between 65 euros and 80 euros the ton. But the coming year, mainly we need to learn how the process is, to find the right recipe, etc. So we expect the coming year the majority of the production will be used internally. But still, we expect several hundreds of thousands of euros as turnover that will flow into the Agrar Group. But okay. Mainly what the reduction first will be is transportation costs, as we don't transport anymore all the water with it, as well as it is a better product for the soil because it stays longer in the soil than chemical fertilizer. But in the end, it also needs to be a new income stream. And with the first plant, we expect in the coming years to more or less sell at least 80 or 90% outside of the group.
Okay, tell us a bit about the newest project you announced, the one with Black Sea Oil and Gas Energy for a biomethane factory. So 30 million euros, 15 megawatts. Tell us a bit about the project. How will it work?
Yeah, so what we will do, the idea was to reduce our emissions and, as I said already, to diversify our business model. So currently we have, of course, the investment in the Strategie farm and our doubling strategy. But on the long term, we also look to be as circular as possible and also as sustainable as possible. The biomethane production will help us to reduce our emissions with 90%. It will be a plant with a total capacity of up to 15 megawatts or maybe even 20. And the Agrar will supply the raw material for the biomethane production to a long-term contract of 15 years. And BSOG Energy will develop the facility. The execution, it's an agreement. It's first an agreement because still the government of Romania needs also to put in force some legislative changes. One of them is injection into the grid. That is more or less everywhere in Europe already possible. And we see developments on government level that this will also become in practice in the coming years. But so what mainly is we provide the feedstock. We will, and as it is for now at least, we will not be a shareholder of this new company. So we provide the feedstock, and for that we get a certain value. And as we mentioned in the press release, because I saw online also some discussions, etc. But the press release is prepared by both companies. So the amounts that are stipulated over there, they are agreed on by both parties. So we expect the revenue between 3 and 3.5 million euros after execution.
Okay, but let me understand. You will consume energy from that production, or that production will be sold on a market, and you will receive just income?
Normally, we will just receive income. Anyway, it will not produce electricity. It produces biomethane. In Romania at the moment there aren't any of those plants. There are several ones who produce electricity, but what we see over there is they are not profitable, or they cannot survive without subventions because they cannot compete with solar and wind energy. With biogas, it's something different. And as soon as you can inject it into the grid, although I don't know by the end of the day where BSOG wants to sell, that is their responsibility. As I said, we are not a shareholder of this new company. We are just a supplier of the feedstock. If you can inject it into the grid, you can also think of that you probably could export it to Western European countries where there is a big request for biogas. But I think it's also interesting for Romania, and then I need to have a quick look because Romania has the goal to achieve by 2030 4.27 terawatts of biomethane consumption, and that accounts for 5% of the country's natural gas consumption. But there's a huge gap in this, currently, because there is no production in that sense. But some legislative changes need first to be made, and that we expect in the coming year period, or at least let's say maximum 1 year time.
Okay, the Straja farm, what's the situation on this project right now? When will it be fully operational?
Yeah, the Straja farm will be a farm of 5,000 animals. It will be our largest farm in the group. It will have 2 milking rotors directly next to each other. And our goal was to partially have it operational in September. We have some delays there. As I said, the climate was really beneficial for the agricultural part, but due to a lot of rainfall and some transportation issues, we have a delay, and we didn't start to milk yet there. Our focus now is to finish 1 milking rotor, to finish 1 waiting room, and to have, in a few weeks, we will have the stables ready for 1,100 animals. Our goal is still to start to milk this year, but things will be tight, and it matters also a little bit on the weather, let's say. So far, the weather is really favorable, and we have a lot of sun that helped us really also on the agricultural part. We are more or less finished for this year on that part, but we have some delays. We don't think on the end date, we are really confident that we will reach the end date by the end of 2027 to have 5,000 animals in the Straja farm. But first, we will start to bring 900 dairy cows in the Straja farm, and from then every month we will gradually increase the number of animals with 100 until the end of 2027, and then that farm will produce approximately 100,000 liters per day.
Okay, how much are you investing in the Straja farm? How much have you invested until now? How much will you invest until 2027?
We obtained this year, I think in March it was, we had a shareholders meeting, and our shareholders approved a loan financed by Exim Bank of 11.7 million euros. In plus comes 9.7 million euros, and in plus comes 20.7% own contribution. So partially it's financed also by the company itself. That will be more or less the total investment. It could be that we need in the end, I don't know, 1 or 2 million euros extra to really reach this 5,000 animals, as the initial plan was to build a farm for 4,000 animals, but we decided to further increase the project. So that's more or less the investment that we do. So approximately 20% own contribution and a bit over 9 million euros on bank financing.
So you said this year you will reach 60 million liters of milk. From how many animals right now?
At the moment, we have close to 16,000 animals. But animals is something different than dairy cows. It's a mistake that is many times made. At the moment, let's say we have almost 50-50. 50% is young stock and 50% are dairy cows. We have too many young stock for the current size of our business. In an ideal situation, you would have 1/3 of young stock and 2/3 of productive cows. In our case, or why is it 50-50? That is that we plan in advance, of course, to fill the capacity that the Straja farm will give us in the coming years. So as soon as we finish the Straja farm, we will have over 20,000 animals, and then we should also focus more on the dairy part and to reduce the number of, or at least to come to a situation where you have 1/3 of young stock and 2/3 of dairy cows.
Well, at the beginning of this year, I heard you talking about you are looking to buy another animal farms, but you are not really finding in Romania what you're looking for. What's the situation right now? Can we see in the next period of time transaction from DNA Agrar?
We are actively looking because we want to speed up our growth to be able to do the upgrade to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and we think a healthy market cap would be around 100 million euros. At the moment, it fluctuates mostly between 50 and 60, so we need to grow, and we would like to speed up the growth, and we see also potential. Also on the local market, as a part of the market feels and sees or has a lot of difficulties at the moment. It, of course, gives for other companies opportunities in M&A. This year we had already several M&A discussions, even due diligence discussions, but in the end the deal collapsed. Okay. And also, at the moment, we are, I cannot say so much about it, but at the moment we are also looking at something, and as soon as we reach a deal, of course, we will inform you immediately. But that could be this year or next year, but it is in our strategy to purchase another farm.
Yeah, we know that you have to announce to the shareholders first. This is how the stock market works. Now, I want to ask you, where do you sell your milk? So 60 million liters, where do you sell it?
Mainly on the Romanian market. Our largest client is Lactalis, or maybe more known Alba Lact, but we have several partners or clients. At the moment, it varies a bit with, let's say, 5 or 6, and we look further into diversify our clientele, especially as we are currently growing and more milk. But predictability is also important, and price. We just renewed our contracts with Lactalis for 3 years, and that gives also stability for the coming periods. And many processes, especially the smaller ones, they like to negotiate only for 1 month or half a year, and that is difficult, especially as a growing company. That gives also risk. Let's say at the moment we prefer to have predictability. It maybe is not always the highest price, or but at least to give predictability, and through that we can not risk free, but at least we are quite certain what the future will bring us and which investments we can do, or when we can expect certain incomes. As well as that smaller processors, first of all, we only sell by full truck. The Romanian milk market is quite consolidated. There are only a few large processors who need certain quantities the whole year. So on that part, it makes it hard to diversify.
But why aren't you a processor? Sorry, why isn't DN Agrar a processor? Why can't we buy DN Agrar milk from the supermarket or further dairy products, not just milk?
I don't know. Would you be interested, or would you buy it? So no, I'm joking, but I think it's a completely different business model. You should focus, especially in our growth strategy that we have currently, that asks all our attention to focus and to implement the strategy well, and to be sufficient, to be effective. So what we do at the moment, we invest in robots, in further digitization of our processes. We invest in technologies like on the fields to do precision agriculture, to become more circular, compost, biomethane. This would mean a huge diversification of our business model, because it is something completely else. So at the moment, we more or less analyze to diversify, but to keep it close to our daily activity, and also to still use our own resources, like in the biogas and in the compost. That is the manure, the raw material. As well as processing is something completely else. You need to negotiate with large players like Kaufland or Lidl. You need a lot of money to invest in marketing. There are not that many brands. So as I said, it's quite consolidated. So that is not so. This question I get asked almost every month, but I think this is way more complex than it seems it is. And you can also see, if you look on the market, there are a few large processors who are successful, and the other ones they have low margins, etc. So it doesn't necessarily bring a benefit. And you need to create an own brand, because if you would only produce on a private label, you not really solve any issue in your chain, I would say, because then more or less you still depend fully on the prices of the supermarket.
No, but in recent years we've seen some white space in the market on the higher class of products, of milk, of dairy products. We've seen some Okay, little medium players who appeared. One of them is also listed on the stock exchange. So we're seeing a wide space in the market. It's not all filled up.
No, now I doubt that a little bit, especially on the, okay, I don't like to comment on other companies or whatsoever, but I think if you look to other companies and you look mainly to their financials, but by the end of the day, there should be taken the decision for, or it could be a hobby as well, of course. But I think if you look to the growth of the Agrar, we show significant growth through our investments, and by the end of the day, we deliver. I think if you look to other smaller companies, especially at how they perform financially, it shows that it is not that easy as some people might think, especially when you are in the higher or when you have a niche product or you're in the higher end of the market. You see, every time we see this, it's the same with biological milk. Every time there's a crisis or there's huge inflation, these are the first products that people leave on the shelf, and they will buy cheaper alternatives. So if things go well with the economy, it goes well with those companies. But as soon as the economy gets a little bit of headwind, it becomes more problematic.
Okay, so your goal is to become a bigger, more efficient farm, to diversify in what you're doing right now with new stuff. We will hear about them more in the coming years. So this is your direction. You're not looking at the other market, the process one.
No, currently we don't look into this, or at the moment we don't look into this. Our goal is to become not only we are already the largest milk producer in Romania, but our goal is to become the largest in Europe, and that we will normally achieve in the coming years. Of course, we look to further diversify. We could think of a vegetable production where still is a synergy with our fertilized product, and we look also, for example, now we import a lot of rapeseed, mainly from Hungary. And we spend several millions of euros every year on the import of rapeseed. What we're currently analyzing is to maybe invest in or the possibility to invest in a vertical farm structure to produce wheatgrass with a high protein level on the farm that is in a closed off building. And that would give us another innovative and competitive advantage. As I said, and we did this year already a study for vegetable production. The study is finalized, and now, of course, in the next year we will do more research and analysis, and that could be a new business line.
What do you mean by vegetable production? You're not referring to the grass you were talking earlier.
Oh.
Okay, vegetables. What vegetables?
We have a broad study that is done that goes from tomatoes are in that study, cucumbers, salad crops, etc. But okay, that is really early stage. I don't want to give the impression, let's say, that it's clearly the direction where we are going. We just conducted some market study. They are done by an external consultant. And now we will see in the future if we can integrate that in the business model. We see some foreign companies who are quite successful in diversification. First Farms is a listed company in Denmark. They have this business model. There's a huge company in Hungary as well. There are several companies who have more business lines to limit the risk. I think anyway, what is our main advantage in the last couple of years is that we have the animals. As I mentioned already, we have also a company which is not a part of the Agrar Group with 3,000 hectares. And based on our experience, it is really hard if you look in a 10-year period, let's say, to have significant profits just when you have hectares.
Yes, just from primary agriculture.
Really help us. The milk, it's a commodity, and it is the whole year consumed. Let's say it's the same with meat and vegetables as well.
Yes, in vegetables as well. If you have cold storage, you can deliver vegetables and be very profitable in the process. Thank you, Peter de Boer, for all these insights and for all these explanations. I hope we'll see each other again next year and hear from you as you finish your investments and start new ones. Good luck to you for developing further the Agrar Group.
Thank you very much again for the invitation and to give the room to further explain the business and the growth strategy of the Agrar. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you. Aceasta a fost prima parte a emisiunii de astăzi. Iată o discuție interesantă despre DNA Agrar. Sunt multe planuri acolo, întrucât este, cum spuneam, cea mai mare fermă integrată de vaci de lapte din România și au diferite direcții, inclusiv proiectul de investiții în producție de biometan, inclusiv, iată, o fabrică de compost care ar trebui să fie operațională săptămâna viitoare. Se uită spre zona de legumicultură și asta este o veste interesantă. Cum spuneau, la nivel de studiu, momentan nu au intrat puternic în zona aceasta în vreun fel, dar se uită la ea și se uită și la alte metode de diversificare. După o scurtă pauză discutăm cu antreprenorul Ștefan Mandache, fondatorul lanțului Spartan și cofondator la Biz. Vă aștept!